Welcome to That's So Rad podcast. I'm your host, Travis Vonksness. This is a podcast about people, their passions, their life experiences, and their stories. As writer Frederick Buechner once said, the story of any one of us is in some measure the story of us all. All of us can learn something valuable from someone else's life and their stories. Join us for another conversation where we learn, laugh, and leave, seeing our own life in new ways. What's more rad than that? Hey, welcome to another episode of That's So Rad. And I'm joined by a good friend of mine who is the first repeat guest wearing the swag to represent. Really excited to have this conversation today with Jeff because back in the day when we used to work together and shoot the breeze and waste time at work, this would have been the conversation you and I would have dug into for a couple hours. I mean, we would have just killed time doing this.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're going to bring you in with us. Jeff is a licensed professional counselor living in St. Louis. He co-founded and is the executive director of Atlas Youth Outreach, which is educational support groups and social engagement programs that support social and emotional growth for teenagers. We talked about that in the last episode that me and Jeff talked about mental health and our working together. He is a lover of ska. He did keep sideburns relevant for as long as he could. He is his own person, not ashamed of it. And he's repping a rad band called Catbite. Jeff, welcome back.
Thank you, Travis. What an intro.
I mean, it had to be worthy of you. So, tell us about the shirt. If you're listening, it's Catbite is the name on it.
Yeah, Catbite. They're a band out of Philadelphia. Definitely like ska influenced. You mentioned I love ska. So ska influenced, but definitely like a lot of other genres in there. Just a super fun band. Like if you just like music that you can just enjoy for just how fun it is, it's great. They're awesome. Yeah. 4-piece band. Check them out.
Love it. 4-piece. Okay.
4-piece.
All right. Sweet. And then you just keep. Love it. How has your summer been so far? As we near the end, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, at least halfway through, right? Or we're now in the dreaded spot of counting down the days till school starts. So, yeah, mine's been decent.
Is it dreaded though? Well, it depends.
Well, yeah, it depends on not for us, maybe, right? Like for the kids.
Right.
Mine's been all right. It's been getting hot in St. Louis, so I don't really like to go outside when it's hot. So that's limiting. But actually, fun. This is fun. We had plans with my sister and my niece to go ziplining on Saturday, but I got curious and I looked because I was like, "Do we need reservations?" And it turns out you would need reservations if they were open. They were closed. So. The thing was we could either find a new zip line or create a new adventure. And me and my wife and my sister and our kids all started talking. And what we came to is we're just going to hit a highway and drive. And we're just going to, if there's a billboard for something that we think sounds interesting, we're just going to pull over and see it. So we're just going to take a true
Now how far?
Probably till the first person starts getting crabby. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a wild adventure. That's all the makings of the Griswolds and yeah.
Yes. And your summer? Anything to report?
Yeah, I'm just flying by. I think our kids start school at the beginning of August. So it's like when I say, I guess for us, it does really feel like this is the final turn around the corner of the summer. We've been just busy with kind of like you, just chasing the kids around and doing family stuff. And it's been a good one.
Yeah.
So today's conversation, which I'm really excited to talk to Jeff about, is going to be on our specific microgeneration. Xennials is the term coined in 2014 by researchers. So if you're unfamiliar with the idea of a microgeneration, it's sort of this idea of bridge generations that are distinct demographic cohorts that are born in the boundary of major generations. So we all know like Gen X, 1965 to 1980, millennials come up next from 81 to 96, Gen Z, 97 to 2012, Alpha follows that, then Gen Beta, I guess, is where we're at now. But there's these distinct micro bridge groups, and we are one of them that just, it never felt like we fully fit. We definitely can empathize and understand some of the Gen X cynicism and sort of their mentality on some things. They're getting late to the game to technology. But we didn't have the same digital sort of, it's kind of the flavor of millennials either. So this is what's really fascinating. And so we're going to talk more about our experience in this and kind of why we're so awesome, right, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely.
So some call this the Oregon Trail generation or the Star Wars generation, because I believe in 1977 was that the first Star Wars came out. But the Xennial generation is kind of this 1977 through 83 range. For people that have no idea what Oregon Trail was, Jeff, describe that.
Oregon Trail was a early video game. I played it in school on a Macintosh. That's before we called them Macs, right? So on a floppy disk, and the disk was literally floppy. Like, it was a big black square that like flopped. Put it in a little machine, and then the game was, you were going down the Oregon Trail, and you and your crew had to make it alive to the end of the trail, right? You were pioneers, I guess, and it was all black screen with little green images on it, and very limited animation, where you were in a covered wagon moving east, west. You're moving west, right?
West. Yep, there you go.
Yeah. And you could die of diphtheria or snake bites or other things like that. And and you would always make up funny names, because when you died, you got to leave a tombstone. So you would like have a funny name. That's and then right. Like a funny epitaph to go with the name or something. Yeah.
That's right. I believe you could also go by dysentery as well, right? I think that was yes, all the ways to die. So a good history lesson there on, thanks for that, on the Oregon Trail games.
Could I have you maybe tell all your viewers what Star Wars is? Because you said this was also the Star Wars.
Yes. Generation. So Star Wars, this is the Star Wars generation. So I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not a massive, huge Star Wars fan. So, but I love the original Star Wars trilogy. So, but I would say, so Star Wars is a sci-fi adventure, genre that is about help me out here, Jeff.
Nope, that was perfect.
I mean, it's basically good, and I mean, it's like, how do you even describe the like magnitude of it though? It's kind of
it's probably
intimidating.
The biggest sci-fi / fantasy movie franchise to ever exist. Right, like it is, and it's about the dark side and the light side, and a guy named Darth.
Yep, and Darth, yes, and that captures it. So if you've never heard of Star Wars, after you check out Catbite, go find Star Wars. So moving kind of on, and then we're going to have a conversation around this a little bit more by way of setup, is that someone once said about our generation, the microgeneration, we grew up in a time when sunscreen was baby oil, bike helmets were for nerds, and our parents' idea of supervision was be home when the streetlights come on. Honestly, it's a miracle we made it to the internet age. Okay. Which is a great segue, because what we also embody as this generation is this kind of two converging paths. One is we came from the analog childhood. So we grew up without cell phones, social media, the modern internet. as it said, we played outside till the streetlights came on. We made mixtapes on the radio. We looked up information in physical encyclopedias. We used landline, rotary, or push button phones, often needing to speak to a friend's parents to ask if they could talk. And then we did adapt later to technology as it emerged in real time. We got our first email addresses and cell phones in late high school or college, and were the original users of early social media networks like MySpace, Friendster, and the college version of Facebook. Okay, now getting to the end of this, I think this is really fascinating. Sociologists frequently describe our psychological profile as tempered realism. We don't carry the heavy, sometimes fatalistic cynicism or institutional distrust that defines Gen X, but at the same time, we don't possess the unbridled, ultra-idealistic trophy kid optimism of core millennials. There's a line. Instead, we operate with a highly practical mindset that believes systems can be improved and collaboration is valuable. And then the last thing is this, and I really want to hear your response to this, Jeff. Even just, as, a therapist, someone that works in mental health. For many Xennials, the Challenger explosion in 1986 was our first real-time introduction to mass tragedy and mortality. And there's something fascinating where a regular teacher who felt safe, familiar, and representative of our daily lives as students, because we were actually watching this, many of us live in the classroom. I was 7, you were somewhere right around there. That, the teacher perished alongside the astronauts, which shattered the baseline childhood illusion of safety that we had. And so the Challenger disaster acted as a dark boundary line at the very start of our journey, where the kind of just this visual, highly advanced piece of technology that instantly poofs into a cloud before our very eyes left a lingering psychological impression that technological progress and the future aren't inherently safe or guaranteed to succeed. And that left an imprint. What are your thoughts around that?
That's fascinating. I've never heard the Challenger explosion put in that context, like a generational context.
Sure.
It does make sense. And actually, I was thinking more about kids today. I mean, as my life is my own kids and the kids I work with, just so, and how how tragedy now spreads faster than the news can keep up with it. So something tragic happens in the community, and we are aware of it before it's in the newspapers, before it's on TV, before it's anywhere, even on social media. We are aware because we have the ability to transfer information immediately. And I think that is both a boon and terrifying, right? Like that is like really awesome to be able to do that, but it's also super scary to think about the psychology of that, of being able to know like instantly when tragedy is happening, and to that point of like making the world feel unsafe. If the Challenger explosion made our generation, our microgeneration, see the world as a potentially unsafe space, I can't imagine what it's doing for kids now who are experiencing tragedy daily in their newsfeed. So yeah.
Well said. Yeah. That man, that begs up a whole, that's a whole podcast right there. I love what you just said there because, because of the connectedness of social media and to your point, the instantaneousness of stories breaking all over the globe in immediacy, and it's in your hand. We're so aware of every catastrophe. Forget just the political crap and just all of the division and the horrible stuff out there, but just simply like tragic news stories. They're just constantly. So here's an example I was thinking about. So there was a horrifying gator attack a few weeks ago, right? And, the woman, there was part of the 911 call, she lost her arms, she dies later, but it shows and I think, so you click on that on Instagram, and then now the algorithm is, primed you to, more gator attack stories.
Yeah.
And I'm just like one after another. And I'm like, whoa, I'm just like, and now back to our time, were more people killed by gators? Maybe they were, but did we ever? So yeah, it's,
but we as aware?
Like, I want to be compassionate. Right. I mean, but there's only so much we can even handle with compassion. I mean, even from being compassionate.
It's also, and man, we may be jumping way ahead in the conversation, but you mentioned the algorithms, and let's use gator attacks as the example. Because the other problem is you go, oh, this is an interesting news story, and you read about it, and you have some compassion for that woman, and you go, oh, it's so sad. Maybe even comment like, this is so sad, thoughts and prayers, whatever you put down, And then the algorithm goes, oh, you like alligator news? And then like before long, and then you see another story and you're like, oh my gosh, and maybe you interact with that. Even pausing as you're scrolling, if you pause for long enough, the algorithm says, you like alligator news. And suddenly like your feed is full of alligator attack news. And your thought is, people are dying by alligator attacks constantly. I have proof.
Constantly.
I have proof, because look,
exactly.
Look. When the truth is, like, how many people die by alligator attack a year is probably so small. Yeah, there's a significant number, and it's tragic, but it's so small that we probably don't really need to worry about dying by alligator attacks. So like, so yeah, it turns out it's actually a freak incident. It's just that your algorithm shows you it enough that you believe it to be a constant thing.
I love that. That's well said. And I think, like, connecting back to the Challenger, like, what a great setup you had of that, of where, that being sort of this, again, and it was this sort of in real time tragedy that we encountered because it was live during our school. I mean, like, and so, but it's as if now what kids are facing are maybe mini challengers or challengers themselves, again, that are just constantly exploding every day, and it's in your hand, and you're just walking around just like the world is just, someone said living on Earth is a dangerous way to spend your time. So I mean, that is true too. But yeah, I like the Challenger, and I have like vague memories of that, because I probably was 7 years old when that happened. And I don't think I watched it live, to be honest with you, but okay. But it is interesting, because that, even though it may not have been something we're scrolling and seeing, I mean, it was probably a near constant conversation with people, because it was such a big like it's, space shuttles aren't supposed to explode in the atmosphere. So like, I'm sure that we were hearing it at, our parents talk about it, our friends talk about it. I'm sure it was still like a very consistent discussion in our lives at that time. Yeah. You're right. And, and that wouldn't have been the first time in history where kids that were impressionable and young and saw or witnessed, I mean, the Kennedy assassination in the 60s, had that same flavor of, just this tragedy that's just shocked everybody. I think what is interesting in sort of the description of the Challenger is that because the one of the victims was a teacher, this wasn't a president who, seemed so other and, well, there was maybe something crazy going on that's why this happened. But I mean, this is like one of us, like this is who protects us is gone. And so I really wonder if that was a distinct, way that I guess had a stamp on us as far as young kids of just like, I mean, that's one extreme example, but just, I found the Challenger psychology thing an interesting angle.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'd never heard anything, put in that way in regards to that tragedy. So that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's no real good segue from the Challenger back into, but let's talk some about, we are going to talk a little bit more of the analog and sort of this, bridge between technologies that really made our generations distinct. What comes to your mind? I mean, just that marked our childhood, like even before teenage years, like what comes to your mind of what you remember?
Yeah. Just about childhood in general, or are you talking technology?
Yeah, no, we'll get to technology. Let's just even more like culturally, or just as a kid, like what was it like?
Yeah.
Well, it's related to technology because I mean we weren't.
Yeah, I'll tell you that the things that right away when you ask that question, the things that pop into my head are the creek behind my house,
Mm-hmm.
uh, swimming, and the first Nintendo. Like those are the things that pop. The
Yeah.
three things that pop into my head when you ask that question.
Say more about it, or more about like just these were also just like.
Yeah, so I grew up with a house, and behind our house there was a small creek that kind of like ran through the neighborhood, and our house backed up to it directly. So I could go down our backyard, and then I could climb down a retaining wall, and I could be in the creek. And on most days where I didn't have school or I didn't, it was summer,
Mm-hmm.
that that was one of my favorite things to do. Go down in the creek, turn over
Yep.
rocks, look for bugs and lizards and snakes, and hike around and see what I could find. And I remember there was a down tree that was like over, part of the creek. Being able to walk over that tree, kind of like classic childhood pictures. So like, I just I think that really, even to this day, I will turn over rocks and look for bugs and things. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then swimming. I remember that being. I just loved water when I was a kid, and just any opportunity to get in the water. I just remember lots of swimming, and and I grew up with there's an old video game system called an Intellivision, which like predates Atari maybe by a little bit. And I had one of those. My dad had
Okay.
one, and I remember just really enjoy watching him play and then playing. But I remember being very excited when that first Nintendo came out and got it for Christmas or something. And that would
Nice.
be, that would be
Yeah.
like after school activity, right? Come home, go downstairs,
Yep.
play Nintendo. But the games back then were not so immersive. So, I mean, I'd say
Mm,
after about an hour of playing, you were kind of like, I'm just done with this. And you put it down, you go do something else.
right.
You get
Yeah.
so much easier to walk away from.
That's the point right there. That's a great point. We we had a relationship with technology that, to your point, you weren't immersed, and it was a physical destination sometimes, right? Like I read this article that talked about like even our, like, let's say computer labs, like as elementary kids or into middle
Mhm.
school or whatever, um was often like, if like that was technology and computers, like you would go to it and then you
Mhm.
would leave it.
Right.
And like, and even that's related to me of like what you said about nature and stuff. Like things were, I feel like we were exploratory in the world of like going to things and leaving things. I mean,
Mhm.
one thing is just the fact that, because I'm with you on, for me it was the woods. We did go swimming in lakes, not nearby, but like we did plenty of that. But I just remember like building stuff in the woods. I remember trying to conceptualize building like a mountain bike,
Mhm.
um, like with parts, and just like, because we didn't have, I mean, that's just what like, I mean, you had TV, but
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
I want to ask you a question. When you were a kid, so let's say
yeah.
ages maybe like 8 to 13, did you have a collection of things that you just
Mm-hmm.
found? Like it, like little, like it's probably trash, but it was like a spring that fell out of something, or a shiny rock that you found, or like just like somewhere you had a box that you opened it up and it was all these things that you found that you were like, this thing's just cool and I need to hold on to it.
Yeah. 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 Great question. So what I remember, so we grew up on a farm in North Dakota. And so, I, two things I do remember. So I would often, like, we have hilltops where like you're out there and sometimes like you would till the ground. And so the soil would be basically bare. And on hilltops, it's super exposed. So rocks and stuff would like rise to the top. So easy access to like find. And so arrowheads, flint
Oh,
arrowheads and things like that were like the holy grail of finding. So I remember finding some pieces of that. And then the last thing is I remember kind of in that hunt finding a tiny, like it was a rock, but it had a shell on it.
oh yeah.
And I was like, I knew enough of, yep. but I knew enough about like, would that mean there's oil? Like, isn't like there's some process here of like if there's, I don't know, but never convinced dad. But so it was like kind of that, like rock collections and then like arrowheads. What about you?
Yeah, mine. I mean, there were a few maybe like little rocks. I don't think I ever had found arrowheads, but it was a lot of times stuff that um, I don't. You know, again, it would be like a pen spring, or you know, maybe I'd be out in the creek and I would
Yep.
find. Um, yeah, I don't know, like something that broke off something else, but it was just like a neat little thing. You know, I remember having a piece
Right.
of pottery that had some design on it. Some pottery must have broken, and I had like a chunk of it that I just kept. It wasn't like it was just pottery that I found. It wasn't pottery that like my family had. You know, it was just almost this feeling of
Okay.
being. I feel like it was like you're Indiana Jones, or you're this, you know, you're digging for
Yeah.
dinosaurs, you're finding treasure,
Yeah.
like it's that like that feeling of just being like I found something that's cool, you know, or again, I think, yeah, like you said, putting things together. So you get something and you go, oh, I could do something with this, but you're 10 years old and you don't know like what that thing even is, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. No, that I love that you said that because it reminds me of like I think what you're to me hinting at while you're saying it is I think part of the hallmark of our childhood and what this microgeneration somewhat represented and still does because we're talking about that more is a tangible expression of the physical world. Like you're talking about like stuff you hold in your hands
Hmm.
and find and collect and you know, I mean, get dirty with like you rub up against the actual real world.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. So I mean, but you know, I can think of other things like, you know, for me it was when I think about kind of what sort of is representative. Again, this is I'm thinking before we sort of get into like now digital stuff comes on the scene, but you know, which for me was like more into the early high school, but like um you know, relegated to like unless you had cable TV, I don't know when that came in, but like a lot of us had like 5 channels and you know, it was like you'd watch stuff at night, you know, maybe like shows, Saturday morning cartoons and a popcorn bowl size thing of Captain Crunch. I mean, you know, it's that stuff too. I mean, kind of
When when my family got a
I don't know,
VCR,
like
my job, we would watch things either pre-taped. I guess, yeah, I would have to be pre-taped things, but you know, a television show we all wanted to watch. My job was I sat near the television because the fast forward button you had to hold down. It was not like there was no remote, right? Like you had. So my job was we'd watch the thing when the
yeah.
commercials came on. My job was to hold the fast forward button and stop it when the show came on.
You're your family's original remote, your
Yeah.
dad's original remote. Jeff, I have to feed my remote and then he'll work. That is hilarious. Do you remember the like contraption on the back of a TV where it was like it had to so it like because you had the two Phillips head screws and then the like little clips that like the line would come in, but then
Hmm.
there was an adapter piece that I think went from that was round to go onto the round coaxial thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Hmm.
do you know what I'm talking about on that or
Yeah, I think I do.
okay? I read something similar. So okay, someone said like, do you remember being 12 and teaching your mom like you were a NASA engineer how to hook this up on the back of the TV so you could play video games? Yes, I do, mom. But but thinking about that to how far we've come, I mean that even that is like because what I want to say to you is, I mean, do you remember like I mean, are we ready to get into the technology side
Yeah,
or where
yeah.
what do you feel like?
No, let's do it.
We can go back and forth because we're analog and digital. We're bilingual. Um, so we can get outside of technology as well in this conversation, but into the we've tiptoed in already. Um, I actually brought a prop, which is a push button, phone. And Okay. And we had the rotary where you had to,
Uh-huh.
7 and go all the way around and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Coming from stuff like that, I actually remember using a typewriter.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Now we were also really poor. So
Mm-hmm.
let me also say, you know, uh, as I came on horseback to the school, but but I remember that. I mean, what types of really old technology do you remember using?
Oh man, the rotary phone definitely is always my my flex when talking to kids. Is like, I mean, we had one where you do the rotary.
Yep.
Carbon paper. Do you remember carbon paper?
Oh, carbon paper. Yep.
Yeah, where you had to
Yes.
fill it out at the top, and then it would there'd be 3 copies below because of the paper, and you rip off the top half for whoever.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. Oh man.
I mean, payphones.
Oh yeah.
Taking film from a camera that takes 3 days to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because I think for us, the internet did not come into play. I mean, I don't know when in St. Louis where you were, but I mean, I feel like it was like 95, 90. I don't know, 90,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere like in middle of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, I'd say that's when
So,
my house, yeah.
okay. So the thing that is too is like we had things like, so we musically, we start with at the end of 8 tracks to cassette tapes, to then CDs, CD Walkman. I mean, so like I feel like we continue to see technology evolve at a much slower pace then, obviously than it is now. But it seemed like there were distinct, like
But yeah, I mean,
different, like
yeah, I think that though what's interesting is that I think we saw technology at the advent of it becoming very fast. I mean, we know technology is moving quick now.
yeah,
I think we were there when
sure,
it got its engine and started moving. Because if you think about
yeah,
technology prior
true,
to us, how fast were things really moving then? Just the music, like you pointed
yeah,
out,
yeah,
in our lifetime, 8 tracks, cassette tapes, CDs, right, to digital, and then the
yep,
digital revolution. So
to
now,
digital,
digital became iPods, right? Now it's all apps.
yeah, yeah,
That that's all within
right.
not just our. I mean, that's our lifetime, but really, that's within the past 30 years. I mean, it's even how fast all of that has traveled.
That's true. Yeah, no, that is true. Um, I think it feels like the technology forms. Maybe this goes back to the theme of tangible things. Like they feel like they were very distinct, different, like tangible forms. Like, I mean, you go from a cassette tape that you're strung out the tape part of it and having to use a pencil to wind it back up to like a CD where it's now this flat, that just goes right into
Uh-huh.
a CD player that you just the physical differences and things that we got to see evolve in technology. Where like now, to your point, like it's that did get the engine going, and then we saw back to back changes. But I think now it feels like app development and stuff so much so invisible
Mm-hmm.
feeling,
Mm-hmm.
versus like this thing was this, and then it was this, and then it was
True.
not that it's not distinct.
Yeah, it's learning interfaces versus learning a new physical item.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that there you go. Ooh, that was a good bilingual. Look at you being a Xennial. That was so. Someone, kids these days don't realize the sheer panic of trying to rewind a cassette tape from your favorite band that just like came undone. I mean, if I don't get this sucker and it's twisting, remember that? Yep.
Yeah.
If you don't know what a pencil is, Jeff is showing a visual of a pencil. There we go. That's what we had to. That's what we and I read somewhere. This is hilarious. Someone said the most defining Xennial moment is the dial-up modem sound from the internet. Not wrong. That's I think that would be it. And to that point, when the internet first came up to where we using dial-up modems, I'm not imagining this wrong, right? Like you couldn't be on the phone.
That's
like that was
correct. Yeah, you're correct. You're correct. Yes, you couldn't be on the phone and on the internet at the same time.
at the same time.
Yeah,
that's right. But even just like not the pre, I mean, we're going back and forth here and all, but like even the pre, like before, like even like, let's say this, like before the advent, even like caller ID, like just cold calling your friend and, you know, no texting, no way to know who's going to answer, you know, it's their pissed off dad that you're calling too late. And like, that's your front line. I mean, you just don't, I mean, the unpredictability of our childhoods, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Or yeah, calling somebody. And I mean, a lot of young people now do not like to call on the phone, cold call on the phone. Like they may call a friend because the friend knows they're calling or whatever, but they do not like to call to order a pizza, you know, or anything like that, which is really probably partly because they don't have the experience of the cold call. Oh no, who am I going to get on the other end? And it doesn't matter. But also because, you know, apps now allow it so you don't ever have to exchange interaction with other people at all. I can order my pizza online and pick it up without ever encountering another person.
This is true. Yeah. It's a crazy change from, man. So, last kind of historical thing I want to say about that, and then I want to see what you have next. And this is so true. I love this so much. This for a visual reference here. You could do this. So I'm talking to Jeff and I'm mad at the end of the conversation. Okay. And someone, when I was just reading articles about this, said, man, I miss the days when I could slam the phone receiver down hard enough that the person on the other end felt it. Boom. I can't really do that with an iPhone.
No.
Okay.
Like,
what else kind of comes to your mind about any of this, or going into the digital age, or as we kind of get to the final bend in the track here?
Well, I'm just kind of curious. Like, do you feel like, because I think it is really interesting, this like Xennial microgeneration idea that, you know, we've lived both sides, and you know we've seen we you know, we could almost, we're able to be like, oh yeah, I used to get muddy and now I play the mud app. Like, so I think, like I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on adaptability. Like, do you feel like you have adapted to the digital world, or do you think that, like, where do you fall yourself? Do you prefer more analog? Do you prefer more digital? Like, where are you at with all of that?
Boy, that's a great question. I've been thinking about that same thing. I think one of the traits that people, researchers, sociologists describe our generation is adaptability. Because we had to learn so much stuff. Like you had to learn the advent of this new thing, this next new thing, the next thing, getting the internet, doing all that stuff. So I do think that, like, I see myself as pretty adaptable, but almost getting weary though. And maybe some of it is because it's felt like our whole lives, like I mean, I know as a human, you're just constantly adapting in some way to live in life. But I think, and I don't know if this is more middle age and stuff, less patience around that, but I know like where I'm at now in life, like I think we had a lot more patience for learning things and waiting on things and knowing, because we came from this era where like you had to do that. Like nothing was just instantly in your hands. Like you had to wait on stuff. You had to wait on a letter sometimes. You had to wait on a phone call. You had to, you know, so I don't know. That's not really answering a question. But I do think a trait I felt like adaptability has been something that I feel is part of my makeup.
Yeah. I find that.
Think?
Yeah, I find that I am kind of split. There are the things that for example, my calendar, right? Like I prefer a paper pencil calendar. Digital calendars don't work. They just don't.
Yes.
They don't do what my paper calendar can do for me, where I can jot notes in the margin, or I can cross things off, or like,
Yes.
and I find that if
That's
I will forget a digital calendar, if I put something in digital calendar, like you have to set a notification to go back to it. And I don't like getting notifications on my phone. The only notification I like on my phone are like, is someone trying to call me or did someone send me a text message? Otherwise, I have no other notifications sent on my phone because I hate the attention my phone demands from me. So like,
yes.
but then there are other things like where I see the technology as a tool that can be very helpful to me. Like that's something that I really like using it for, and I like
Yeah.
what it bring me. And so I feel like
Yeah.
where I see a lot of people are going straight to like they just everything is whatever the new technology is. I feel like I'm making choices about where I use that technology or which ones I'm actually gonna adjust to and learn. And partly like you mentioned it, like I just don't have the time to sit down and learn a lot of this stuff. Like when I was a kid, I had hours and
Right.
hours and hours
Right.
to just sit and play with something until I had it figured out. I just don't have that kind of
Yeah.
time. um so
Yeah.
so I see the use for me. I'll take the time to learn it. If I don't, I just prefer to stay analog on that.
That is such a great example. That helped me think of my own experience too. And I wonder if you're hitting on sort of even more of a general thing for people where for us, like there are these things where it's like we choose one or the other because if you did come from our analog background and then really have a foot also in the digital world, it would make sense that there would be some things where we're just like, no, I like this better.
Hmm.
And so that I'm vibing with you on that same thing of like a visual calendar for me as well. There's a lot of times like visual notes. Like I remember like when I had this grant writing job, all over the outside of my laptop computer were like sticky notes with like dates and like different notes. Like I just hated trying to, I don't know, just having that part be a digital experience, like having to, so maybe the organization side, but I feel like visually there's something for me too of like, that is interesting to wonder if we kind of, you do pick and choose based on, um, what I was going to throw your way is I wonder if because we came from a world like, so I think a lot of people, like no matter the age, long for like escape from the digital, like the confinement of a phone, that just, the addiction. But the thing is we had such a rich upbringing before that stuff to actually imagine and know that world, what it was like to go explore the woods, what it was like to make your own fun and be creative and, all that kind of stuff. The kids that, especially now, not even like just the previous generation, but like currently our kids, many of them, when they don't know that stuff at all or that world, if now it does come down to us being ambassadors of that, but like it's got to be so much harder too to like even for a lot of them to even like get kickstarted, not just because they're they're being lazy, but just they don't know, they kind of just don't know it, right? Do you, I
Hmm.
mean, is that something you
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree with that assessment. I think that like things you don't know are scary. So I think there's a lot of kids that are, you hear about going into the woods and they're like, oh, why would you do that? But it's because they've never had the opportunity to experience that or to go to, to go out and do those things. And I think the other thing is, and man, I know because I got to get going in a little bit. If you want a part two, this we can. Um,
probably
because
need to?
another like big conversation that we could have is about dopamine, and the way that like
Yeah.
dopamine and our phones work together. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of people. I'm not even gonna say young people. There's just a lot of people who are so engaged with their phone, and it's dopamine seeking, and
Yep.
it is dopamine exhaustion. Like they're exhausting their dopamine
Mm.
supplies, and then they look up at the real world, and it's doing
Yeah.
nothing. It's so boring.
Right.
The real
Right.
world can't offer you the flash and bang and lights and the quickness that your phone can. Um, so it's almost like you really do have to detox yourself and get out there and like start to
Yep.
understand that like, where else dopamine can be found besides the quick scroll. Because man, our phones offer us constant entertainment. If you're bored, your
Right.
phone's got
Yep.
something for, like,
Yeah, it
so,
does. Yeah.
uh,
Well
so,
said.
so I think there's a lot of people that are just struggling to be able to like understand how to create your own fun, like you said, or how to replenish that dopamine supply. So it's going off when it needs to be going off.
Yeah, and that would be another great conversation. And it reminds me too to think about like, and what's the replacement sometimes for where it's maybe not a dopamine hit, but you actually need it more. Like I'm thinking, like going back, like we have a retreat in Tennessee where it's like really just immersed in nature. And so yeah, you might be laying there looking out on the hills and watching the cows in the mountains. You're not necessarily getting a like just a hit, but there's something in the peace and in the like almost like on just letting it, letting yourself just be like
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
breathing.
And
um
what is interesting about that experience is that it may be dopamine, right? But it's like low level dopamine. It's like peace dopamine. But
sure.
what's great
Yeah,
is that
peace open.
you go back in your head and you can recall
Yeah.
that situation, and guess what your brain gets? It gets dopamine just from the memory of
Ah,
the experience. So
okay. Yeah.
when we are living digital lives, we aren't getting experience. And so we aren't having that like long term kind of experience of going back and going like, oh, that time, Travis and I did this,
Yeah.
that, like we're
Yeah.
not getting that same kind of like feeling through the digital experience.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I like that. Yeah, so it's a roundabout, it's a different version of it. And
Mhm.
maybe it's maybe more subtle, but maybe it's just a different type of a dopamine hit that's like it's obviously just as powerful if not more in a different way.
Yeah, and just simple example of that, right? I could probably look and download right now some app or some game that is like a cake maker, right? And it's like I get to bake and make cakes in this app, and oh, I get to design them and decorate them, and that might be fun. That might provide me dopamine for the moment, but if I make a cake, right? I get the full experience
Yeah.
of making the cake,
Yeah.
mixing the batter, putting it in the thing, waiting for it to cook, and then
Yeah.
decorating it with my hands, and then sharing it with other people.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then when you share, right? You're eating the cake and you're talking and you're laughing and you're blowing out candles, whatever you do with this cake, and then later on down the road, that memory also becomes a pleasurable experience. Whereas the app doesn't later down the road give me the same pleasurable experience.
Yes. Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think that's actually kind of full circle to the end of this conversation where we're back to this sort of just tangible real world, real things, real people. And that's really the broader spectrum of just being alive. I mean, there's something so stunted and so like one dimensional in just digitization of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there's that longing to like, and I think we may see a renaissance of smartphones going away, or at least to some degree. I really think because at some point there's a purging of like, this is just, I can't do
Mm-hmm.
this anymore. So I wonder if we start to see that on a bigger level.
I think it's starting to. I think there is starting to be a shift. People are starting to make better decisions or different decisions about how they use their phones. But young people are becoming way more interested in physical
Yeah.
media. They are collecting things
Yeah.
like cassette tapes
Yeah.
and CDs. They want those things,
Yeah.
um, partly because they're like, you buy that CD, it doesn't have a commercial on it, but also because they like the idea of holding something and having it in their hands, and the booklet that comes with the CD or whatever. Like they just love, and they love collecting it and putting it on a shelf. All the reasons we loved doing that, right? All the reasons that we collected the
Yep.
arrowheads
Yep.
and the pen springs and all the garbage we had
Yeah.
because we loved seeing it and we loved holding it. And so kids starting to get interested in that stuff. And I every day more and more I'm seeing that. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you're on the front lines of that. So, and I think you're playing a role as our other Xennials in being ambassadors to that world of real stuff. I mean, there's certainly an aspect of that that's, yes, kids discovering that and seeing that some on their own, but some of it is because of, I think, our microgeneration that is like, hey guys, I mean, we're in your world too, but there's this other world you got to check out. So that's us. That's the power of us. So
Yeah.
Do you have any closing words on this?
Go outside. go have
Go outside.
Go have an adventure. Leave your phone at home when you do. Stop taking pictures of everything. Like I got a lot of things to say about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like, no matter who you are, like make sure you are engaged in the real world, because that is so much more satisfying at the end of the day. The technology is a great tool, and we don't have time. But again, I'd love to come back and maybe pick up the conversation, because it's a great tool. And there's a lot of things on my phone that I love that I have them. But yeah, it shouldn't be our main source of everything.
Yep. Great closing. I can't say anything better, and hopefully this conversation went all over the place, but I loved it. And so, but I'm a Xennial, so. But hopefully if you're listening and you're one of us, kind of in that 77, 76 to 83, 84, you felt seen and heard today by your fellow humans in that era. So,
cool.
All right, Jeff, great hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on.
Till next time.
Anytime.
We'll do it again.
All right.
Hope you enjoyed the episode today. Check out the show notes for any links or resources shared in the episode. If you enjoy the podcast, it would be really appreciated if you'd subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share it with friends. May we all remember these words from writer Mary Oliver. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it.